is that everything you do is a positive influence and a positive act. And millions of people doing a small amount makes a big amount, you know?
Yeah. I mean, we need to change the mindset, not just of politicians and policymakers,
Yeah.
but of the public
The
as
people
well.
are very reluctant to change their everyday lives, and that's half the problem.
And it is a pain, some of it as well.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Yeah, and I think the thing is, I always think back to the days when I was younger. So my parents always used to save things and reuse things, which is a sort of another aspect of it, I suppose. There was a lot of reuse rather than buying, and we're very much a throwaway culture at the moment as well.
Society,
buy things, throw away, rather than reusing or recycling and so on and so forth.
Yeah, it's changed a lot, I think, in the last sort of 40 or 50 years. I know, my dad always used to fix everything, the washing machine, the toaster.
Yeah.
We had a toaster that was older than me.
And it's still toasted.
I'm not going to say how old that is.
I'm going to ask you just to get a little bit closer to the mic because we're not quite picking you up quite well. So if you just,
Testing.
As a musician, you know all about mics. So,
so yeah, I think it's a really hard thing to drum into people, and it takes time. When people fall into a certain way, and they fall into it very easily, but it's hard to get them to revert back. Yeah. We have this where I work, trying to get a mindset get set in, but trying to reverse that. Once you can do it and set the ball rolling, but it's getting that ball rolling to get the changes.
But we need to get it rolling pretty quickly.
Well, yeah, I mean, I have a very big personal opinion on this, and I think within 200 years there won't be a human race. We'll have killed ourselves. I really do.
That's a bit dramatic. Mind you, that if the Americans who are shooting at this asteroid get it wrong, we might be sooner than that.
I didn't hear about that.
Well,
you don't hear about this one, though, right?
I haven't been listening to the news.
Because I travel at night now and I listen to the news, and what NASA are doing is there's an asteroid that's not going any danger to us.
Quite a long way away at the moment.
Yeah, they're going to shoot a rocket at it to see if they can move its trajectory.
Okay.
So, in the pretense that if one was coming towards us, could they actually physically move it to make it miss us?
They could do target practice with the Russians and the Chinese.
That's right. Well, apparently, I mean, I was listening to it on the news today. Apparently, it's going to take till September before it actually reaches the meteorite.
Yeah.
The rocket. So they're setting the rocket off, and it's going to take till September. It's that
it,
far away.
No, but they can measure it, and they'll be able to see if how much they deflect it by. So that it gives them an idea of then how if they could actually.
I suppose sort of testing out for a worst case scenario.
Correct. It happened, as they say, it happened once, and it will happen again.
So going back to sort of the climate change and the activism that you're doing, what are the key sort of messages you're trying to get out to people?
Well, 2 years ago, I got really inspired by the work that Extinction Rebellion were doing, blocking bridges in London, and just the messages that they had really sort of resonated with me. And those are, tell the truth, basically in simple language, tell the truth, act now, and go beyond politics. So telling the truth, I think that's started to happen a lot more actually on what you see on TV these days. That it is actually being covered, especially on Channel 4 news. Acting now, well, XR that's a acronym for Extinction Rebellion. They actually call for a very demanding target of reaching net zero by 2025, so no emissions.
Wow.
Which, seems crazy, but we live in crazy times. Beyond politics is actually involving the public in this actual decision making. So there was actually a climate assembly, a citizens assembly, where they randomly selected people to come together and discuss the issues and then put together recommendations.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it wasn't binding because they were actually pretty good recommendations.
That was on the TV, wasn't it?
Yeah,
they had the programme.
Right.
Yeah, I remember seeing that. Yeah, that was.
I haven't actually seen it.
It was on fairly recently, and
I think it was just during this week.
Yeah. I remember seeing. I didn't watch it all the way through because it just happened to be on when I was at home.
Yeah, I actually got pretty centrally involved with Extinction Rebellion a couple of years ago, but then I sort of worked myself stupid and ended up having a bit of a meltdown. But I've stayed connected with my local exile group, which is North Hearts, and we got involved in an action last weekend, actually targeting a couple of petrol stations, just highlighting the issues around greenwashing, which is
So explain
making
greenwashing.
out you're working on renewables when you're not actually doing very
Right.
much at all.
So people are speaking about it but not actually doing it.
Yeah, so we've got a lot of people bibbing their horns in support actually, which is really encouraging. We have other things planned. I think the only one I'm aware of at the moment is action on Barclays Bank, basically saying, you know, stop investing in fossil fuels.
Right, yeah.
So we do stuff like that, and we do stuff around the Luton Airport expansion as well.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're quite a big local group. We've got about 400 members, and then
Wow.
these groups are right across the country now. I mean, I wasn't going to count them up on the map on the Extinction Rebellion website, but there are literally dozens of them across the country,
Right.
and in other countries as well.
So that suggests that the public are now listening and they're wanting to get involved in helping with reducing, the impact of climate change. You mentioned the politics side as well. I mean, we've had that big conference just recently, and when you read the news, there's a lot of conversation around how much of that is actually going to stick, and how much of that, how much of what they've said is real. Or is actually going to happen.
Yeah, as Greta Thunberg said, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I thought it was great. She has a way with words which is just incredible.
It's easy to talk the talk. Now you've got to walk the walk, as they say.
Our government is pretty good at actually saying things and not really doing very much.
But that's the same throughout.
But I think any government does the same.
Yeah, I'm sure it's not limited to our government.
No. Yeah, it's politics and the media, even though we're in the radio station, are probably the worst things, because the media gets it wrong, or they sensationalise things that don't need to be sensationalised, and don't talk about the things that perhaps are more important.
Yeah.
It tends
but,
to be...
things are starting to happen, but it's
around
the edges, really.
Yeah.
I mean, I do a lot of stuff with fashion because I work with someone who's got a background in fashion.
Right.
And, there are things happening with smaller brands, but not with the bigger brands, really.
But it's like anything, it's the snowball effect. You start off little bits happening, and as you go on, it gets bigger and bigger. So it's like rolling a snowball down the hill. Eventually, it will gain momentum and become bigger and bigger.
I mean, we've got now people like Mark Carney, who's the governor of the Bank of England previously. Yeah. He's doing a lot of work to bring financial institutions so that they're not investing in bad things.
And that was one of the things that came out of the conference, wasn't it?
I suppose what we have to realise is that we have a way of life, and to try and you can't change it instantly. You have to it's a gradual process, because there's certain things we do in life that you can't suddenly stop. You have to find alternative ways. And that takes time, unfortunately.
We need a just transition, definitely. I mean, especially in terms of looking at the countries that are on the front line of climate change, in Africa, in Central America.
That's sort of like the front line. It's like the battleground. It's like the Amazon rainforest. The forests are the lungs of the earth. So what's happening? They're chopping down the rainforest. Now, the guy that chops down the rainforest because he needs to feed his family isn't going to stop, because his immediate concern is his family for now. So he can't stop. So we need to help him to stop him chopping down.
We need to help these countries. We're saying to these countries, don't emit anymore. But we were ourselves for the last 200 years emitting stuff and getting rich from it. And so we're saying to
Industrial Revolution.
Well, don't emit, and we're not really going to give you that much money to help you either.
But we have to help them, otherwise it's a pointless task.
Totally.
Yeah. So people who are listening who might say, okay, what can they do? I mean, we do what we can. So I've got solar panels to try and help from that perspective. We recycle loads of things. We try to be as reuse. We try to buy current fresh fruit and veg from local farmers, rather than getting stuff.
So there's no packaging.
Same with any meat. We don't eat an awful lot of meat, but again, we go from the local butchers. So what kind of things can people do? I mean, what would you recommend, to get people more engaged? And
I'll focus on a few things.
Right.
I mean, one thing, like I said, I work a lot with sort of the clothing industry, fashion. £40 million worth of clothing goes to landfill every year. A lot of people buy stuff, they wear it once, and then they chuck it out.
I know.
They don't even take it to a charity shop to be, for someone else to buy it, which is called the circular economy. So that's a big part as well. It's like reusing stuff, repairing it, like we were saying about earlier. I don't think I'm going to be darning socks though. Renting stuff. Why not rent an outfit if you need to go out to a Christmas party?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So, that's a big part of it, is actually think about your clothing. Treasure your clothing.
Well, people actually do throw clothing in the bin?
Yeah.
Really? Wow. Because I believe that even if you give it to charity, if it's unusable, then they use it as rags.
A lot of
and
it
things
gets
like that.
sent off as well, and this is another problem. It gets sent off to developing countries, and
Right.
then that obviously then causes their clothing industry a problem, because they got all these cheap clothes coming over from charity shops,
Right.
and they get put out of business.
Yeah.
So you've got to think of the whole sort of picture as well.
Well, I suppose that linked into that as well is where the clothing's coming from. So is it something that's being what's the word, sewn and created over in China or somewhere in the East, and you've got the whole transport bringing it over to the UK, and then you've got people buying it cheap, and then, like you say, wearing it once and then getting rid of it. There's that whole cycle, isn't there?
Well, it's the culture of fashion has changed a lot. I mean, with the sort of so-called fast fashion, like, sort of the Primarks of the world, where you could buy a T-shirt for £5. You've got to think, how much was the person that made that actually earning?
Yeah, exactly.
If they can sell it for £5, and probably £4 whatever is going to the Primark. How much is going to the factory where it actually got made?
Yeah, that's right.
So what is? I mean,
and the farmer that grew the cotton for it.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah. So what is happening in the fashion industry? I mean, is it something that is happening in a big way, like they're doing it financially at the moment with the finances? Trying to get. Is there somebody leading the sort of call?
There's
on
a number of groups that are looking at various aspects. Yeah, I mean, there's stuff like Fashion Revolution, who do a transparency index, so they're actually telling people, telling customers, doesn't necessarily mean that they're doing the right thing, but they're actually open about it. And if you're open about it, you probably are doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Or at least there are certain initiatives going on. I won't go into the detail because it's probably a bit dull. But
okay. I was just
move
wondering.
on to another one.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, it's something interesting about the recycling thing. So in the UK, there's a group called the Chaotic Angels, right? So supermarkets have a lot of food waste, as we know. So the Chaotic Angels have got in connection with the supermarkets around here, and on a Saturday they go and they get all the undated food, and it goes to a pub called Our Mutual Friend, and the Chaotic Angels, the girls.
That's in Stevenage. It's also in Hitchin somewhere as well.
I actually know someone involved in that. My friend Lynn. Shout out to Lynn if she's listening.
So I mean, I go on every Saturday morning and help.
Yeah, do you know Lynn?
I probably do.
Lynn Grounds, I think it's her surname.
I don't know the girls' names that well. I've only recently joined.
Right.
But then they bring the food from the date, just on date food, and we sort it all out, and then people come and buy it. So that saved it, and then that money goes to charity. And then at the end of that day, any food that's left goes to Women's Refuge.
Yeah, it's a great model, yeah.
And
should be rolled out
this needs
everywhere.
to be, because somebody says that like 40% of the food that gets wasted, because at the end of the day,
something like that,
it's crazy.
But a lot of the fruit and veg actually don't need dates on them, to be frank, because quite a lot of them will last a lot longer than
make a smoothie out of it.
Well, that's what I do every day.
We know, don't we? Because we've had fruit basically from there.
Well, you bought me kale last week.
Yeah, it's been on date that day, and we have used it up until the end of that week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we've reduced the waste dramatically.
Yeah, and it's amazing how little food we produce in this country. Actually, people think the figure's around 50%, but that's not the real figure. I can't remember now exactly why it's not, but it's actually around 80% of our food is imported.
Wow,
which is just ridiculous.
That is a lot, isn't it?
But probably a lot of the food we do produce, we ship it off to New Zealand or
why don't we keep
United
what
States.
we produce?
It's just crazy.
That's totally crazy. Anyway, what other hints and tips have you got?
Yes.
Well, I mean, driving is one that's a pain in the arse, really, I suppose. Although now we've got electric cars that are coming down a bit in price,
which is causing problems itself.
But yeah, I've got cars account for just over 18% of our emissions, which is pretty significant.
Yeah.
So, we really need to be bringing that down.
Right.
So, just using public transport when you can, walking or cycling, which is, good for your health as well, good for your mental well-being.
Yeah.
So, doing more of that, basically.
Yeah, which has, I think that needs a change of attitude, and it also needs the public transport to be more reliable. Because, if people are... So if I think about if I wanted to go to work... I thought about going on the bike at one point, and I thought that's fine going there, but if it's late and dark, coming back in the evenings, and I've got all my stuff to carry, and I'm in a hurry to get home to cook dinner, etc., etc., I've then got to change my mindset about what time do I leave work, etc., etc. So it's a whole mindset change, isn't it? The same with a bus or a train. A lot of people going to London obviously use trains, but buses, local buses as well. So it's absolutely something people should be doing, but it does mean that they've got to think about how that changes, how they got to change their life.
Schedule is, it can be difficult for people, can't it? Yeah,
absolutely.
Especially when people are so busy these days.
Yeah,
and I think as well, we should invest in the railways, get the lorries off the road.
Well, let's not get political, but maybe we should nationalise them.
Well,
Sorry, I just did.
Well, let's say all those services within the country should be owned by the country, not by private enterprise.
Well, they used to be, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, that's right. The Conservatives sold them all off.
And when it goes wrong, they are nationalised effectively.
That's right. So you build the railway infrastructure back up. Yes, you're going to have lorries to do the last mile, but think of all those vehicles off the road. What does the lorry do? 4 to the gallon.
Yeah.
Right. So what else what are the tips? Have you got any other tips for us?
Well, as it's coming up to Christmas, I don't know, how many days away is it? I don't know.
I don't know.
Well, actually, if you look at your watch, it's the 24th, so 1 month it's Christmas Eve.
1 month is Christmas Eve.
Wow.
So we create 5 million tonnes of household packaging waste in the UK every year. So I mean, there's loads of stuff around Christmas that you can do more sustainably.
Right.
Like most Christmas cards, you can't recycle them; they have to go to landfill or incineration. Things like decorations as well. Make your own. Go back to the old days and be creative. Make your own decorations.
I have. Yes, I have. Yeah. And cards as well.
Amazing, you guys. You're really sustainable.
Well, we're not. I mean, there's a lot more we can do, but we
unfortunately, I have to drive to work every day, so it's one person in a car, and I have to drive 125 miles a day.
Wow.
But I work at night, so there's no other.
You can't really do this remotely, can you? Very easily, anyway.
Well, it's not this.
You don't get that interaction going on, do you?
Well, it's not this. It's his real job.
And my real job.
Okay.
Right. We do this for fun.
Yeah.
We don't we do it for the love.
But you're right. Christmas. Do you remember making paper chains when you were
younger?
Do. Yeah, me too. Get the paper chains out and make those.
They tasted nice. The glue as well. I do remember making those with my dad.
Yeah. But I mean, again, people buy lots of decorations and then they chuck them away. They have them for a year and they chuck them away.
Clothes for parties and buying
true.
presents for people or clothes. Look on eBay or other options apply. I should probably say that.
Vinted is a good one for clothes.
And it's the same.
Yeah, there's a few of them. I can't remember them off the top of my head. Depop, I think, is one as well.
Yeah.
I've not heard of that one, but there's wrapping paper as well. So I think last year I used brown paper.
Yeah, or newspaper.
So one of the guys...
I just don't get newspapers, I don't buy them.
People say, oh no, they don't read the Daily Star, do they?
Do you remember the time when we used to have fish and chips and newspaper?
I meant the Daily Mail, actually.
Yeah. No, I think I mean, that's all they class it as health and safety because of the ink. We didn't affect us back then, so why would it affect us now?
In those days, the ink came off. These days, it doesn't tend to come off. They've changed the processing, haven't they?
Yeah, brown paper.
Yeah. Because it's recyclable, where wrapping paper isn't recyclable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
good ideas.
Have I got any more?
Have you got any more?
Go for it.
Not really, actually, no.
There's the obvious ones, obviously, recycling everything you can recycle rather than putting it in your bin. So, I think some people can get quite lazy and not put things in the recycle bins. They're not the easiest to get on with in Stevenage, but, even so, it doesn't take long, doesn't take much time to do that. We've noticed our black bin is emptier and emptier, isn't it?
Yes, there's less in the black bin and more in the... We find we need a bigger recycling bin.
Yeah, we do, absolutely.
Yeah.
Anyway, any other plans that you've got sort of coming up that if people are interested, or how do they, find out more if they're interested? You mentioned it last time, but it's worth mentioning it again.
Yeah, well,
you mentioned
I guess,
the website, didn't you?
if you feel inclined to get active, I mean, one thing I've got written down here actually was that in September 2019, an estimated 6 million people joined global protests on climate action.
Wow,
that's a lot.
So people are taking notice.
So
basically.
just Greta sitting in front of the Parliament building in Sweden, and suddenly 6 million people. So I mean, I'm sure it's not just down to her. She's sort of picked on, but I mean, there's amazing climate activists in the global south as well. But yeah, join your local Friends of the Earth or Extinction Rebellion, Greenpeace, and it makes you feel a lot better when you're actually doing something. I can vouch for that.
Yeah. At least you feel like you're contributing.
Well,
to
I just think of my daughters when I think about it, and things are going to be happening in their lifetime, certainly in their children's lifetime. They haven't got any children at the moment, but yeah.
Well, I think about my granddaughter for some reason.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, thank you ever so much for coming in and chatting to us and giving us some ideas and tips and that.
No, you're
absolutely
fine.
welcome. So we always ask our guests for a song choice, and you picked Cooler Shaker and Great Hosanna. Now, is there a reason for this one, or is it just something you like?
I just heard it and I just couldn't stop listening to it over and over again. I don't know if I've been trying to listen to the lyrics and work out what it's about, but anyway, I just love the song. Lots of songs that I love, but that one in particular.
Fantastic. Well, we're going to play that now, and thank you again very much for joining us in the studio.
Yeah.